Hey everyone, I'm Paul with MadCap Software. We are on video 9 in our series on styles in MadCap Flare. And we are getting into something that I think is really cool in Flare and in CSS. And that has to do with mediums. Using mediums, it just gives you more power when you're using style sheets, able to do a lot more things with less work, which I'm all about that. So mediums are really great because they allow you to say, all right, most of my styles are going to come from this group of settings, but in some outputs, there's just a few things that are different. And I just kind of want to override them, but just for that target, just for that output. So I'm still leveraging most of the styles. It could be 90, 95% or more percent of the styles from the main set, but I'm just getting that little bit of difference there without having to do a whole bunch of extra work. Now, there are other alternatives. You could have different style sheets. You could have one style sheet for one target and an entirely different style sheet for another target. I would just say, well, I would ask myself, how many of those style settings are the same? Because you don't want to be setting 90, 95% of the same stuff in different style sheets. Another thing that you could do is you could have one style sheet that has differences in a main style sheet, and you could link them together. You could do that. You can read about that in the online help, linking style sheets. But I really like the system of mediums. I find it really handy, useful. It's not hard to do. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. We're going to get into mediums. We're going to talk about mediums that are provided by Flare for you. We're going to talk about creating your own custom mediums. And we're going to get into the inheritance and go through some examples and see how different changes in the style sheets and in the mediums affect your output. All right, so hold on, here we go. All right, so we're going to dive into Flare and see where these mediums are in the style sheets, and actually take a quick look at the mediums that are provided for you right out of the box by Flare. And you might just be good with just these mediums and not need anything else. So let's go into Flare and take a look. All right, in this little project, I'm going to open up my style sheet, and it's going to open up here in a second. And there are these options here in the up here in the local toolbar. You're going to see, first of all, I'm in the advanced view, and I could switch over to the simplified view, and you're going to get the same opportunity to deal with mediums in here. So in the simplified view, you have this drop down, which lets you choose mediums, and this drop down right here, which lets you create mediums or delete mediums. All right. So when you click this drop down, you're going to see a few options in here. And the first one says default. And that's kind of your main medium. That's where the vast majority of your style settings are going to go. And I've talked about this in other videos, how Flare is really an online first mindset. You're really thinking in terms of creating online output. And then, yeah, you can also do print output in addition. And so I think of the default as, all right, this is where the vast majority of the stuff is going to go, and in particular for online output. But we also provide you with this medium that's called print, and that's pretty easy to see what that's about. So, all right, I've got my online outputs, and they're going to be set initially to use the default medium. So they're just going to use the main stuff. The PDF targets, the print targets, are going to be set automatically to use the print medium, which means that they are going to use, it's not that they're not going to use settings from the default medium. It's that anything that's overridden, the print medium is going to inherit stuff from the default medium, and then it's going to have some exceptions. And so that print target, that PDF target, is going to take those into consideration. Whereas the online targets, if they're just using the default medium, they don't care about the print medium at all. Now, there are a couple of other things in here which say medium mobile, medium tablet. Those are technically media queries. They're not mediums. And so we are actually going to talk about those in the next video, but they are just kind of grouped here with the mediums because they are such close relatives. Just know that they are different and they're used for different purposes. Okay, so just wanted to let you know that right out of the box, you've got these. And if I go into my targets, and you can see this project is set up with an HTML5, an online target, and also a PDF target. And if I go into my online one, the HTML5, and I come down to advanced, and I scroll down, you're going to see style sheet medium field. And you select what medium you want. And by default, it is set to default. That's what it's going to use. If I create a brand new PDF or open up this existing one, the great thing about these, that particular output type, you also have the style sheet medium field in here, but it by default is set to point to print because we anticipate that people are going to use that print medium. And you want to take those exceptions, those overridden style values into consideration when you're generating the output. Now, you might not even use a medium, a print medium. You might just put everything in default. That's fine. It's still going to use those styles, but just in case you do put stuff in your print medium, there you go. All right, so those are mediums provided by Flare. Next, we're going to take a look at creating your own mediums. Okay, you might just be able to put everything into default medium in your style sheet, not worry about it, and you're good. That's fine. And maybe you also use the print medium. Okay, but there could be occasions where you need to create your own custom medium. And so let's go back into Flare and see how that's done and why you might want to do that. Okay, in my project, I'm going to go back into my style sheet. And again, I'm in the simplified view here, and I can just quickly create a new medium by clicking that drop down and selecting add medium. Now, once this opens, you got a couple of options in here, medium and media query. Again, I'm going to talk about media queries in the next video. So we want this on medium, and we just need to give it a name. And so this gets at, well, why would you want your own custom medium in the first place? Well, I do this in my own project. Let me go actually show you my project. So I have talked about this in other videos, how we've got all these products: Align, Capture, Central, Contributor, Doc2Help, Flare, Lingo, Mimic, Pulse. And so these are all in the documentation. And the thing is, the way our graphic designer worked was, she created this look for the different product lines. So some of these are kind of closely related. Capture and Mimic are kind of closely related. Flare and Contributor, closely related. And and then Lingo and Align, they're closely related. So she had different colors for these. So Lingo and Align, Lingo is our translation tool, and the color scheme there is orange. And for Flare, our color scheme was green. And for Capture and Mimic is blue. All right. And so when I first started writing, creating the project and writing the documentation, of course, I was first writing about Flare, and because that was our first product. And so I had the color scheme for that, and all of my style settings in the default medium were, written that way. Okay, and but then we started adding these other products, and then I knew that, all right, the vast majority of the styles are going to be the same in the Flare documentation as they are in the Lingo documentation, but there are places where the color needs to be changed, or maybe an image needs to be changed. And so there were these exceptions. And so I couldn't rely just on the default, and I couldn't just rely on the print. I created a whole bunch, and some of these are for, and you can see I named them according to products, and whether they're online or whether they're print. The online ones are more product, named after the products, and then down under print, color, because multiple products would have the same color, and I could share things from that same medium. So that's just what I did. I'm not saying you have to do what I did, but I had a need for this. I didn't want to have 20 style sheets. I wanted to have this one and mediums in there. So that's what I did. Okay, let's go back to the little project. So you could do something similar, and you could say product line B. Okay, so the idea is that default is going to hold your main product line A. That's where things are going to be set. But then product line B, all right, some differences, a few differences in here. So you click OK, and now this is going to open, and it actually did. You saw the name change here to product line B. So in the simplified view, you can work on one medium at a time. You select it from here. Like I can go back to default, and it's going to change. And so now whatever I change in the style sheet is going to be for that medium. But now I have my default medium, I've got print, and I've got product line B. Okay, so I'm set up that way, and you might need to add even more custom mediums. Who knows? I didn't know in the beginning I was going to create as many as I did, but I did. All right, so I'm going to save this, and we are going to move on, and we're going to go into looking more about inheritance and actually editing the style sheets to make use of our mediums outside of the default medium. All right, so we have multiple mediums in our project. Let's go back in, because we want to see what inheritance is doing with mediums, and go in and make some changes and take a look at the results. All right, now I'm in the simplified view, and you can do that. You can work in here, as I showed you, you can switch between mediums and just work in that one. But there is a definite advantage to using the advanced view of the style sheet editor. And I'm going to click on this to toggle back over to that. Now, when you have this open, I'm going to just move things to get more room here, because what the advanced view allows is for you to have multiple mediums open at the same time, side by side, so that you can see what's going on and work on them at the same time. You don't have to switch from one to the other. And I really, really like that. So in this drop down in the advanced view, you get this extra checkbox in here. And I could say, all right, I have my default medium open. I can tell by that title there in that little header. And I could select the checkbox. Now, if I select print, what it's going to do is it's going to and not select the checkbox, it's going to just switch these. It's just going to open up print, and it's going to close default. But I want to see them side by side. So I'm going to select the checkbox, and it's going to open up print over on the right. All right, so I got that, and I could just keep going if I wanted. Now I do have the media queries in here. I don't care about those in this video, but I do have this other custom medium, and I'm going to open that as well. So I can see 3 of them side by side. And this is really cool. This is like magic. I've got things in group view right now. And if I click that, then they all go into alphabetical view. So they're all just working in sync here. And it's nice because if I expand one thing, the others expand. And here is where we are seeing some inheritance. This is the additional layer of inheritance I was talking about in the last video. So the default medium is just kind of the king here. And other mediums are going to inherit from it. That's why you set most things in the default medium. But then you can override things, and you can see it here. So the color under font is dark here. So I know I've set this explicitly. I'm using this style variable. And if I come over to print medium, this is grayed out, the color, and it is showing, yeah, I'm inheriting this from this medium. And same thing with product line B. Product line B, because I just created it, is pretty much going to be the same. It's going to start out exactly the same as the default medium. Now in the print one, this was already in this project template. So when we created the project template, we already did this. And the font size is set to 12 point for the default medium. But in the print, we overrode it. Font size 11 point. It started out as 12 point, but we overrode it. So that's what we're doing here, is we are just changing the few things that we need. And I didn't even look and see what style I'm on, because you need to do that. I'm on the body style. All right, let's go down to the H1 style, because I know that there are differences here as well. So the H1 has that variable, that brand, it's that dark blue that we've seen in previous videos, and it's being inherited by both the print and product line B. Now the font size, 24 point here in H1, or in the default, and we overrode that to 25 point in print, and it's still inheriting 24 point there. And then we've got bold, the font weight, bold here, and it's being inherited. All right, so now let's say that I make a change and I decide, well, I want my H1s to be even bigger than 24 points. So I would start in the default medium. Do I want to make the change there? Yeah, I definitely want to do that. I want to make it significantly bigger. Let's make it 36 points. And I click there, and you can see that, well, this one is overridden still. So it's not going to inherit because I told it, but this one is going to be 36 points now. Product line B is exactly the same. All right. But this is where I might want to make a change in product line B, maybe with the color. I'm thinking, all right, it's got a different color scheme. I don't want to use that blue, and I want to use something else. And if I had other, different line of colors set up in this project template, I could select another style variable, but I'm just going to go ahead and select a color. I'm going to select this orange because it's just easy to see the difference between the orange and the blue. So that has been overridden now. All right. So that's really an easy way to work with mediums in this advanced view. So I really like that side-by-side stuff in there. Now, I also remember there are 3 ways to look at your style sheet. There's the advanced view, simplified view. There's also the text editor. And I want to show you that to show you how these are written. There we go. Open with, I right-clicked, open with internal text editor. So you can see it starts out with all this stuff starts out with in the default medium. All this is in the default medium, all the way down, and this is the way selectors are, and they got the curly brackets. We've looked at that before. Now that that you get to the mediums and the media queries are all in this style sheet as well, but you're going to go down for a while because the vast majority of the styles are in the default medium. When you get to a medium or a media query, one that's different from the default, is when the way these are written is they're indented. But the key thing is it starts with this at media. And this is at media tablet. This isn't a medium. This is a media query. But until we got down to this stuff right here, that was all default up above. So, all right, so we're in this tablet media query. It's written the same way, media. It's just tablet. And then we come down here. Now we're into the mobile media query. All right. And we're not caring about that yet because we're on mediums. Now we're down to the print one. And you can see It starts with that, and it's got its own outer set of curly brackets for everything. And we just indented this. It makes it easier to read. It's like, oh, this is an exception to the default medium. And you just look down, and it's not that many things that are in here. It's just like, I'm going to use everything above except for these things. These things are going to be different. And down here to product line B, I just added this one. So it added it to the bottom of the style sheet. And the only thing I've changed was the color for that H1. So that's how it looks in the text editor, because in the future, you might start out in the simplified or the advanced view of the style sheet editor, but in the future, you might go into the text editor and need to make some changes in there. So you can. All right. Now we have, we've seen how to make the changes in here. And we did see in our targets, all right, the main one. So I could change HTML5. Let's say this is product line A. So I'll just rename this. And that's going to use our default one. And then we've got our PDF, whatever I want to name that PDF. And then I could create a brand new target. And I could do that, by selecting this and add target. But maybe a lot of this is the same. And I'm just going to do make a copy of this. Press Control-C, Control-V. And then I go into the target and just make whatever changes for product line B I need to make in here. Maybe it's, pointing to, I'll open up this target. There are different things in the target that I could change. It could be pointing to a different TOC and so on. But I come down to advanced, and I made a copy of this thing, and it's an online one. And so by default, it's going to use this style sheet medium. But now I'm saying, nah, I want to use product line B for that. So it is going to use the default stuff, but it is going to take into account those little changes in there. All right. So now what we can do is we can build our outputs and see the differences, see how this all works. Now I'm gonna create this product line A online output first and open this up, and let's get it over onto this screen. And you can see it looks this way. And I've got, okay, I made that H1 pretty big, and it's using that brand color, that dark blue. And then I can come back in here and I can build product line B, and it is going to be identical right now to that other output, except for the color of that H1. So here it is. It's the same everything in here, but the color is different. Otherwise, all the settings are the same. All right. And then we also had our PDF, and our PDF has a lot more changes. You saw in there when I looked in the text editor, there are different things because we definitely want the PDF to look different. Maybe the font size in places is different, but it's going to still use a lot of the same things. And of course, it's a different kind of output in here. You come down, and it is still using that color for the H1, that blue, but it is a different size. It's not that big size that we saw. So there you go. That is a quick look at the mediums and actually how easy they can be to use. But there is something very important I want to talk about next when you are working with mediums. Now, a word of caution, very important when you are working with mediums. Mediums are awesome. I love them. But if you're not careful, you could make a lot of changes in a place where you don't mean to make them. Let's go into Flare. So here's the deal. Let's go into the style sheet. And this is true whether you are in the advanced view or whether you are in the simplified view. And so if I go into, let's go into the simplified view real quick here. And it is going to have that, I believe, it's got product line B selected in here. So I open this up, I'm working on documents, different things. And I go, I got to make some style changes. I open this up and I go in and I just start clicking and making changes. and I don't realize I'm on product line B. And I intended to make them on the default medium. All right. So I could go through and make a lot of changes, go and spend a lot of time. It's like, oh man, I didn't mean to do that. All right. Well, if you need to fix that, one way to do it is to open it up in the text editor and cut and paste, move things to the right medium. You could do that if you're comfortable enough in there and you can remember what you changed. You can identify it. That could be tricky, though. So what I tell people is train yourself. Just be disciplined when you open up your style sheet. When you're going to edit something, the very, very first thing you should do before anything is look and go, what default, what medium am I on? Am I working in the correct one? All right. So I can go back over to the advanced one, and I still have all three open in here. But sometimes what happens is you get busy on something, and you go, oh yeah, I just want to get the default one out of my way, and I just want to work on print, and then you close out and you come back in here and you make a bunch of changes, and then you just happen to go, oh man, I made all those changes in print. I meant to make them on default. So again, you have to train yourself to do that. And it's for that reason that some people decide, I'm just going to use separate style sheets instead of making the mistake in here. And I understand that. I still prefer to use mediums myself because I think that the reward outweighs the risk. I have gone in and started to make changes and go, oh, I forgot to change the medium. And then I fix it. And then I go on. But I am so accustomed now to looking at first at the medium that doesn't happen hardly anymore at all. It happened at first, but it doesn't hardly happen anymore. Just a word of caution if you are going to do that. And so, in fact, I'm so paranoid about it, I will change to default medium now and close out my print so that I know that it's going to open up default the next time that I launch the thing. I'm just used to doing that. So just wanted to put that bug in your ear that be careful with these, but also enjoy using mediums because they are really cool. So there you go, mediums. They're really, really great. And I definitely would go in and practice using them and kind of come up with a plan of what you want and what maybe if you have custom mediums, what you want to name them. Just have a plan at first and then go in and they're great. Now, we are going to move on in the next video to talk about the cousins of mediums, which are media queries. So they're related, but they are different. Super, super cool. They're really great for online output. And that's what we're going to cover in the next video.